And then
what is this tree plantation? Is it eucalyptus?
It's a industrial tree plantation like acacia, albizia, garmolena, which pulp and pepper for pulp and pepper.
Okay, can we look at it, because I think it would be interesting for everyone, because you did really well in using the perennial crop icon for fast-growing tree timber plantations. Because if you had chosen the forest or the other category, you would not be able to really take into account the production of timber. And in this case, under economy, you will see that you have a yield profile. So you can really take into account the production of your timber. But I saw some issues there. So one issue I saw is that you see you've put age of the oldest plantations, 47 years old.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so the old there's actually only one plantation, which is I think 60,000 hectares. So they started in the 70s. Yeah, in the 70s.
Okay. We're talking of the age of the trees, not of the age of the concession.
Right. Okay. So oldest means because, okay, so under these plantations, the material is used for one, for paper, and two, sometimes for furniture. So for the paper one, they will usually harvest it at the 8th year, and then for the furniture in the 12th year. So should I put 12?
Exactly, 12. This is really the age of the oldest trees in this case. And we are asking you next question, as you were saying, what is the distribution? So if you select mature, it means that most of those trees will be leaning towards 12 years old. If you then expand the settings from economy, right? You have your yield profile here, but you see only 1 year because you've said that first year of harvest is 8, peak year is 8, and last year of harvest is 8. So you would need to change that and put 12 as the last year of harvest in this case.
Right. Last year. So, but it, like I said, it depends on what is the use of that raw material. If it's for pepper, then usually 8 years is enough. And then for other use, it's 12 years. So this is generally the two types of use for that raw material.
So if there are only 2 harvests, one at year 8 and one at year 12, you can adjust the little dots that you have on your yield profile here to put at 0 the data for your 9, 10, and 11. Is it?
Sorry, come again?
Do you see the green dots that you have on your yield profile? You can put it at 0.
You mean drag it below?
Exactly, but not for year 8. Year 8, you have some production.
Yeah.
So year 8, you have to think what is the yield in year 8. But year 9, if you don't have any harvests, then you put it at 0. This is where you drag the dots to the bottom.
Okay, so
year 9, exactly. This one, you drag it to the bottom. That's in the very specific case of timber plantations where you have a harvest at year 8, no harvest the year after, and again you harvest only at year 12. So you have to, this is a very specific yield profile. For agricultural crops, normally you have something which is much more linear, and we'll see that in a moment with palm oil. So that was just an issue I wanted to show you on those 3 crops. But another issue of interest to everyone is further below.
Okay.
You have under ecology settings, you have put a lot of trees on farms.
Yeah, so I think the spacing is can't remember, 3 by 3 meter, and it's a very very, acacia, it's a very tiny, I don't know, how would I say it? It's not a big tree. It's very skinny, I would say. How would I describe that?
Yes, but here, trees on farms, normally we refer to the trees that are additional to your crop. So I saw you had the same issue in palm oil. You try to account the number of palm oil trees, or palm trees. We wouldn't do that. We would add here just the trees, like the natural trees that remained in the boundaries of your plot. Or if you have some shade-grown cocoa, for instance, that would be the trees, the natural trees that are giving the shade. But the tree crops are not to be accounted here. Here, this is to account for the additional benefits that trees on farms generally provide when they exist. So that's why we wouldn't expect to have more than a few trees. Sometimes up to 100 trees for shade-grown cocoa, but not more than that, really.
Okay. Can I clarify here? So the practice for industrial tree plantation is usually that clear fell everything, so that leaves to 0 natural trees on farm.
Exactly. So you put 0.
Okay. Right. Okay. So I misunderstood this bit here. Okay.
And the carbon stocks, here you have a 0, but you should have a bit more, because this we are trying to capture the average carbon stocks that is stored into your plantation. So this is plantation which, at year 0 has no carbon stock because everything is clear cut. But on average, over the cycle, you have some carbon stock, so you can account them here. In the results of the land use planner, you have the option to not account for the carbon stocks of perennial crops, because in RED Plus accounting, normally we don't, but for other kinds of accounting, we allow this to happen. So if you want to account for the carbon stocks of your tree crops, you can.
Okay, I think I'll do that later.
Sure.
Because I need to check the tree species and what is the proportion. Yeah. Okay.
One last thing I would comment on your project, and it's really good to. I see there is a comment by Rebecca. Biodiversity include wildlife. It includes, yes, in theory, yes, but in percentage of the biodiversity value of each land use compared to an intact natural forest in your territory. So assuming that the value of an intact natural forest in your territory is 100, what would be the value of a hectare of those tree crop plantation that Nick mentioned? Is it 0 compared to the forest, or is it 20%? Because you still have some wildlife, living there, some plant diversity surviving there, some birds maybe coming and nesting. So this is to allow you to account for some biodiversity. By default, for annual crops, the percentage is at 0, but you are free to raise it.
Yeah, in our case, it's really the habitat for elephant. So we have our elephant monitoring data that shows the whole area is being used by the elephant. So obviously this plantation is actually having an issue with the elephant. So the crops were destroyed, and that's why this plantation is working with us to try to find solution by having corridors and so on and so forth. So the biodiversity, how do we quantify that here?
Yes, so if you have an emblematic species like the elephants in those tree crops plantation, then you can account it here.